Hey everyone, Lesley Myrick here. I am an interior designer and Nancy Ganzakoffer's associate business coach. I'm here today with the lovely Mina Duque from Duque Renders. Welcome, Mina.
Hi.
And today we're going to be talking about renderings and specifically how 3D renderings can be used on your social media, on your website, all that kind of good stuff. So, we're going to do things a little bit differently today, and Mina's kind of going to ask me the questions. So take it away, girl. I'm yours today to interview about renderings.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, I think it's easier for everyone to get an understanding for like the true value from someone who's using them, and especially someone who's using them with us. So I would love to just start off with just hearing kind of what you think the main advantages of using 3D renderings are over traditional methods of presenting.
Okay, this is a great question because it took me a while to get there to really embrace 3D renderings in my business. But the big advantage is, listen, we as designers, we have it all in here. We can see the floor plan, the fabric swatches, and we can completely picture what the room is going to look like, but the clients can't. And what I've found is, the mood boards, the swatches, the plans, like those are all great and part of the design process. But what a rendering does is it takes all that unknown for a client and it's a picture, it's a literal picture of the finished space. And they go, oh, I get it. And for me, it's been so advantageous having 3D renderings as part of my business because there's no hesitation from the clients about moving forward. If I'm saying, here's every furniture piece, every pillow, every lamp, here's what it's going to look like, here's what it's going to cost, and they see that rendering, it's an easy sell. Whereas there's a lot more questions when they're like, well, how is that sofa going to fit? What is that fabric going to look like on that big sectional? Things like that.
So you think it reduces presentation time for you?
Absolutely. It reduces presentation time because, again, like it's an instant and they get it. It also truly increases sales for me. I almost didn't see that coming. I just thought the renderings were like, this is helpful. But what it really does is increases the client's confidence in you and your design because they see the end product before it's even actually created.
So when you say increases sales, I kind of want to dig into that a little bit because obviously this is an investment, and anyone who's making an investment wants to make sure that what the return is. Like besides happy clients. Oh, did I lose you? Hello?
Oh, it's going a little fuzzy. I got you back now.
Okay. Besides obviously the fact that it does make you look more professional and it elevates your status and it's a great tool for your clients and all of those wonderful things. But in terms of ROI, like being able to help you, as a sales tool, like do you have an example that you can share maybe about that?
I would say before I was using renderings in presentations, clients would see things and they'd be like, oh, I think that sofa is going to look great, but it's a little more than I wanted to spend. Or there was some more hesitation about investing in certain things, even if we'd already discussed the investment and where that would be. But when they can see it on the rendering, how it looks in the room, fits with everything else, those little pieces that might have been a question mark before, they see it in context and go, oh yeah. And honestly, I have fewer revisions when I do renderings and quicker decision making, and clients are more likely to go with everything. And there might be one or two reselections versus before doing renderings. Occasionally it was like, well, we're not sure. This lamp is a little bit more than we wanted to spend. Could you source an alternate? And then they'd end up going with the original anyway, and it would take more time and cost more money. So that for me is how I've been able to justify the investment in getting the renderings, is because I know that they're going to sell product. They're going to sell that higher end sofa. They're going to sell that unique floor lamp because the clients can see it in context.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then I'm also wondering, like, I guess once you have the approval, once you have the images, do you usually get to use these images freely? I guess it depends a little bit on the agreement that you have with your client, but how do you use the images afterwards once you've already gotten approvals and now they're yours?
That's such a great point, because I make sure, and it's so hard because I want to share these on social before, but I make sure my clients see them first because it's their design. They've paid for that. So once they've seen the renderings, we're good there. I absolutely use them as social media content. And I know I want to dive into that specifically today, because a lot of designers struggle with, well, I don't have a completed project to share on social. I don't have projects at the level I want to be at to share, and renderings can do that. So you can also just design a room and get it rendered, and it doesn't have to be a real project. It can be a spec project. So that's just a little aside, but I absolutely do the renderings on social. I love to do like the before photo with the rendering, like as a carousel, so people can see, hey, this is the space, here's where we're going with it. It's also really fun at the end of a project to do, the rendering versus reality. And it's crazy how close they often are. And I think renderings for me have done really, really well on social, because people do a double take. They can't quite believe at first that it's not an actual room. And like, they love the room and they'll like that. And then they'll go, wait a minute, this isn't even real. And I found that it brings a lot of engagement and excitement from people.
Oh, cool. That's really cool. Yeah, I think it's true. I mean, even we have like internally, we have this kind of game every now and then, because clients will send us pictures of the actual space from the same angle with the rendering so that we can see. And so sometimes we share it across our internal channels and we'll be like, which one is the rendering? And even though we see renderings all day long, sometimes we can't tell either. So it's a fun way to, to use the comparison. But yeah, I mean, they are great for social media. Do you have any tips for people that would want to use them on their social media that are new, besides, you said like you do before and afters? Is there anything else?
I would just say, I mean, people are always, people in general, when posting on social, it's easy to feel like, oh, people have already seen this, they don't want to see it again. Use it on your feed. Use the images in a reel. Use them in your stories. Like, no, people aren't paying as much attention as you think they are. And this is great, very high quality content that you can really leverage. So you can do a simple reel with your renderings and be like, here's ta-da, like project reveal of our new dining room. And it's just, still photos rotating on a video with great sound, great music clip. And that makes really fun, easy, engaging content.
Yeah.
Put it in your stories, put a poll on it, ask do you think this is a real room or rendering? There's definitely ways to utilize it and have fun and stay on brand for yourself, obviously, and use that content. I think it's leverage it. You've already invested in it. You have this great content. This is a great chance to, I believe with Duque renders, normally you provide like multiple views. Like usually your packages include like 3 wide views and 2 close-ups. That's 5 social media images. You can post them individually over time, do a carousel, include them in a blog post later, post them in your stories. I mean, don't be afraid to share them. People really, really love this technology side of interior design. People love design in general, and then tying it in with the tech and having people not really, obviously disclose that it's a rendering and not a room, but I feel that renderings sometimes do even better for me than rooms, because people are so like, I can't believe that's not a real room.
Yeah. And also, it just made me think like, I have my own interior design business it's in Mexico, and things are different in Mexico. We do photography. We own the photos. The photographer doesn't. But I've heard in the US that you still have some sort of rights, or the photographer still has some sort of rights to the photos afterwards. Is that right?
It really depends on your photographer and what license agreement you have with them. But yes, having a photographer take your photos in the US is not a guarantee that you own the photos or have full rights to them. So that is something that you do need to discuss with your photographer. But I think I can see where you're going with that, where renderings avoid those limitations. If you don't have the rights to fully share your photography in different channels, a rendering can be a good substitute for that still gets the point across of your work and what you've created for your clients.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's a huge advantage, that you can use them freely and you don't have to get permission. I thought it was so crazy when I heard that after you spend a lot of money on photography, then you still don't get to use the images freely however you want.
Yeah, it really does depend on the photographer. There's definitely some that are more old school that are going to be really, I guess, like picky with the rights and fees and things like that.
Yeah.
Every photographer I've worked with, they're pretty liberal. But again, these are things you need to discuss with your photographer before your shoot so you fully understand what you're allowed to do with those photos. And like you said, it's different with the renderings. You know, Duque Renders creates them, and then the designer has, my understanding is, free use to do what they want and need to with those images that they have paid for.
Yeah, exactly. And let's see, is there anything else besides social media? Like, how do you use them in your portfolio? Actually, a good question that I would love to know as well is, like, if you have renderings pre-project and then you have photography post-project, do you keep both online, or do you use them until, like, how does that work once you have photography as well?
So on my website, what I like to do is a blog post that is like a full project tour. So it's the before, it's the mood board, it's the renderings, it's the after, and it's the story of the project. So that's one great way to include renderings on your website. Now that I'm doing renderings, I've also started on my portfolio page. After my finished projects, I have a coming soon section with, you know, each project and the renderings to sort of show people what we're doing, to tease upcoming projects, to show that we're an active firm with a lot of good stuff going on. And that's been a fun addition, because sometimes your portfolio can feel kind of stale when it's been months, you know, since you've finished a project and have been able to get new photography. So for me, that's been a big advantage, is having this new coming soon section with 3 or 4 projects and showcasing the renderings from each so people can see what we're working on.
Oh yeah, I love that. And have you ever used clays, just out of curiosity? Because I know some people do, some people don't, for either for socials or on your website, or is that just more for your internal, like?
That's a great question. And I want to explain that term in case people aren't familiar with it. So a clay render, which is one of the things that Duque provides, is basically your room rendered out, but just all in grayscale. So there's no finishes, there's no textures, there's no color. It's just size, scale, form, layout. And that's the first step to make sure everything's right before they start putting all the finishes and colors in. I love the clay renders. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think that's also great social media content. You know, here's the blank room. What do you think it's going to look like finished? What color palette do you think we're doing? Or here's the blank room and the render. Like, what would you have done differently? There's so many ways to utilize them. I don't know if I'd post the clay render on its own, just because it's, I mean, for my brand that's very colorful, it wouldn't make sense. But I think it's so interesting because they're like, they look real. It's just there's no finishes or colors on them. So I love that you mentioned that. I think you can absolutely use the clay renders as part of your process photos or videos, you know, do a transition from the clay render to the finished one, like have it fade in and suddenly turn into color.
Or you can have like there's like a scroll, I can't remember.
Like the slider thing.
Sliders, and those are cool with the clay and the reel.
Yeah, I love that idea. I don't know how to make those, but it's probably not that hard.
It's really easy, I think it's just like a website, but
very cool.
But yeah, I think the clays are usually something that it's like the more deliverables, the better. Like the more you know, items that you have that you can share on, not just with your client, but on your socials, on your website, the better. And so clays are just one more of those. Also, I don't know if we've told you, but we're actually working right now on creating an additional, like an add-on essentially for, especially because we know that a lot of designers kind of, I don't want to say hate, but don't love creating social media content, but it's like such a necessary thing nowadays. So we're working on creating add-ons so that you can have the option of, like, we create a few reels, for example. So if you have a project, and we can just include in the package some reels and send those to you. So you have some reels ready to go with, like, maybe some trending music, or maybe not even with any music, and you can add your own. But the point is that it's like more content for you. That's using awesome. The images that we've already created.
I think that's great, because a lot of designers do get hung up on, well, I've got these images, like, how do I share them? What do I write? How do I make a reel? I think that's a really cool feature. I haven't heard about that before.
It's a really cool feature, guys.
Oh, love it.
I'm excited about it. It's not ready yet, but we're working on it. So that's coming.
Awesome.
Yeah. I don't know. Is there anything else you want to share? I think that's pretty thorough. I mean, there's great ways to use these for socials, for website, and is there anything?
I just want to encourage designers, if they're not using renderings in their business yet, this is where the industry is going. Clients are starting to expect it. And this is not something you have to know how to do yourself. Do not feel hung up on the tech. To do beautiful photorealistic renderings obviously takes training and time. And this is a great part of your design process to outsource. I use Duque renders myself. I love their work. So renders can be and should be part of your design process. Build in the cost for the renderings, the expense for it into your design fee. Make it non-negotiable. I have taken that stance. If clients ever say, well, can we lower the design fee by taking out the renderings? They are so valuable to me in my design process that is a hard no. They are part of my process, worth every penny. And I want to mention too, you guys have a great offer for Nancy's audience, which is a killer value. So it is rendering of one space. You get 3 views, 2 close-ups, a night view, which is super cool. I haven't seen one before, with 2 rounds of revision. So any changes, updates you need to see, which is valued at $1,500. And Nancy's special offer is for only $9.99, which
amazing
offer. Yeah. They get that offer, Mina. If a designer's watching and interested in trying out a rendering, they want to take advantage of this really cool offer. How do they do that with you?
Just go to duquerenders.com and you'll see it. You can book a call there. We have 2 offices. There's like a Dubai office and a US office. So there's a link for booking a call. Just book a call. And then on the call, you can just tell us that, you want to try out Nancy's offer essentially. And that's it. We'll honor it.
Yeah. Any last thoughts or insights you want to add about renderings as someone who works in this field and is also a designer?
I mean, I could rave and rave and rave about it because I used it from the very beginning, and this is kind of how Duque Renders started. And I love renderings, and I think that it's a great tool, even if you are planning to do photography. But I just think that, like you were saying, it's kind of, this is the trend. This is where things are going. And I think that even when we started in 2020, this was more of a, I don't know if optional is the right word, but it was more like some designers did it, the ones that were really ahead, and, especially the ones that needed it because they had clients that were, having troubles visualizing, or, there was it was for certain designers, but not all. But I feel like more and more I'm hearing people say, even if it wasn't their idea, they're coming to us because their clients are requesting it. And it's just becoming a standard. And I can say, for example, the US is different than let's say Dubai, because in Dubai, where we work with a lot of real estate developers, it's absolutely non-negotiable there. There's not even a question of if you're going to have renderings. The question is what level of renderings, what quality, and then behind that also, what kind of a service and all of that. But everybody uses them hands down. I mean, you can't compete without them. In the US, it's going that way. And so I feel like using them still puts you ahead. I know some designers have told me, I want to do this because, or even general contractors, I want to stand out. I want this to be something that I offer that others don't offer, and it'll help me, get the job, for example. So it's not too late to be early, but but definitely it's heading that way. So and the great thing is you don't have to be an expert in it yourself. It's an easy thing to outsource.
Yeah, all your team needs is everything we are already doing as designers: plans, elevations, selections.
Exactly. And then to that also, I think the number one fear that I hear, which I was shocked by, it's oh, but I don't know if I have all the information that you need, worries about the submission process and whether they have all the content. And it's just funny to me that that's the number one fear, because I'm thinking that's the easy part. You have everything already. Just Send it over.
Yeah, we've done the work as designers. It's just a matter of turning it over to your team, which is not that hard to do. So yeah, don't let the tech hang you up. Don't let the obstacles. Reach out to Duque Render's team if you're interested. It's a great offer to get that one entire room rendered for under $1,000.
Yeah.
And see how it works for you. I mean, we've got designers saying like, I mean, it's like, I cannot believe what this did for my process, for my client's confidence. Personally, I tape the renderings, the printed renderings up in a home during a remodel because it's so valuable during that messy middle for the contractors, for the clients to see, here's where we're going. Like, yes, it sucks in here right now and you have no floors or no plumbing. This is where we're going. And it really, it helps. It just brings so much more confidence and ease to the design process. And that's what we all want, is easy and profitable. And truly, renderings do that for me in my business. So thank you, Mina. It's great to have you here as always. Go take advantage of Duque Render's offer, duquerenders.com, book a call, and we'll see you back here next month for some more tips on using renderings.
Yeah, thank you, Lesley. Great talking to you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.